Welcome to this explainer. Back in 2015, a team of scientists decided to pull off something completely unprecedented. They literally lowered a single, highly sensitive microphone 7 miles straight down into the pitch-black waters of the Mariana Trench. They were aiming for the Challenger Deep, the absolute deepest known point on the entire planet. And their goal? It was surprisingly simple. They just wanted to listen to the abyss. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder what the absolute bottom of the ocean sounds like? I mean, if you drop a microphone 7 miles down into the darkest, most incredibly isolated environment on Earth, what do you think you're going to hear when you finally hit play? To really wrap our heads around the extreme stakes of this recording, we've got to talk about this number, 10,994 meters. At this insane depth, it's permanently freezing. It's darker than a starless night. But the absolute most terrifying part? The crushing pressure. We're talking over 1,000 atmospheres of force down there. To put that into perspective, that's enough pressure to instantly flatten a military submarine like it's an empty soda can. No joke. Let's ground this massive scale for a second. Think about this. 12 human beings have successfully walked around on the surface of the moon, but the number of people who've actually reached to the bottom of this trench? Just a handful. It is quite literally the most hostile, isolated address on the entire planet. So naturally, scientists had one very clear expectation when they sent a mic down there, right? They expected absolute perfect silence. But obviously, you can't just toss a normal recorder into the Challenger Deep. The engineering required to actually pull this off was basically a heist against the laws of physics. Ordinary metal or glass, that would just turn to paste under that kind of crushing weight. So the team had to seal a specialized hydrophone inside a ridiculously thick, heavy titanium shell. Titanium was pretty much the only material tough enough to take the squeeze and actually come back intact. And the drop itself was incredibly nerve-wracking. You can't just chuck this thing overboard and hope for the best. If you slam a seal device into that kind of pressure way too quickly, it's going to fail on the way down. So it had to be this careful, agonizing 6-hour descent. By 200 meters, the sunlight is completely gone. By 8,000 meters, you've passed the deepest known fish. And finally, after 6 long hours, it touched down at exactly 10,994 meters. Once it hit the bottom, that recorder was totally on its own. For 23 straight days, the hydrophone just sat there, entirely alone in complete, utter darkness. It continuously recorded the surrounding waters, day and night, capturing absolutely every single vibration until its internal memory was completely packed full of data. But here's the thing. Capturing the data was really only half the battle. Getting it home almost didn't happen. Right when the team was scheduled to retrieve it, the Western Pacific threw a massive Category 4 typhoon directly over their drop location. It turned into a total typhoon trap. For months, the team couldn't safely return to the site. So the first ever recording of its kind was just sitting at the bottom of the sea, out of reach, and they genuinely feared it might be stranded down there forever. So, the crucial point is, when the weather finally cleared and they successfully brought it back up, they took it straight into the lab and pressed play. Now remember, the expectation was perfect silence, just a flat line of nothingness. But the reality? Oh man, it was a crowded roar. It was this chaotic mix of overlapping, deafening noises hitting the mic from all directions. Let me break down the incredible natural cacophony they actually captured. First off, the planet itself. Earthquakes from tectonic plates grinding together sent these deep, rumbling groans through the rock. Then they heard the deep moans of massive baleen whales, mixed with the high-pitched clicks of toothed hunters drifting down from miles above. And, amazingly, they even caught the roar of that Category 4 surface storm passing overhead. Down there, it sounded exactly like rolling thunder heard from the bottom of a deep well. But then came a much more sobering realization. Woven with the whales and the earthquakes was the totally undeniable sound of humanity. They distinctly recorded the churning of cargo ship propellers, the shark echoing booms of active naval sonar, and the massive thudding blasts of air guns used for oil and gas surveys. Our human noise had already reached the most untouched place on Earth. It turns out there's really no pristine silence left in the deep. Which really makes us pause and reflect on this powerful idea from the research. The real question is whether society wants to continue optimizing primarily for efficiency, or whether we are willing to pay the economic cost required for greater resilience. When you realize our massive ships and industrial surveys are literally echoing down in the Mariana Trench, you kind of have to ask yourself, is our relentless drive for shipping and fossil fuel efficiency actually worth destroying the resilience of our deepest marine ecosystems? Now, what's really interesting about this is that among all of this noise, the ships, the whales, the storms, there was an unexplained anomaly. Buried deep in the audio was a strange, repeating signal that absolutely did not fit anything on record. It didn't belong to any known animal, and it definitely didn't belong to any known ship. Let's break down the weird structure of this sound. It was a 5-part call lasting only about 2 to 3 seconds total. Parts 1 through 4 were just a deep, low moan sitting around 38 hertz. But part 5? That's what completely baffled everyone. It spiked all the way up to 8,000 hertz in this sharp, metallic, robotic squeal. It didn't sound natural at all. Honestly, it sounded entirely synthetic, like a sound effect ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie. And the crazy thing is, this mechanical noise wasn't just some one-off glitch or a temporary error with the microphone. This exact signal had actually been detected for years. It repeated across different seasons, right near the trench, yet the source remained completely unknown. Not a single marine expert in the world could definitively pinpoint what on earth was making this noise. It really forces you to stop and ask, what living thing makes a call that ends like a literal machine? Scientists were so stumped that they just gave it a placeholder name, the Western Pacific biotwang. They went with biotwang because, well, they strongly suspected it was biological, and that weird ending sounded like a metallic twang. But at the end of the day, they had absolutely zero proof. To actually solve the mystery of the biotwang, researchers had to pull off a near-impossible task. They had to launch a massive expedition to literally catch the sound in the act. They needed to physically see the source of the noise up on the surface of the vast Pacific Ocean at the exact same fraction of a second their underwater hydrophones picked up the recording down below. Talk about a needle in a haystack. And the payoff for all that effort was a moment of just pure, genuine awe. During one of these intensive surveys, that metallic synthetic call was finally definitively matched to a visual sighting. The machine was actually alive. The source of that robotic sci-fi squeal was a massive baleen whale breaking the surface of the water. Let's move to and see how this builds, because one lucky sighting just isn't enough for definitive scientific proof, right? They needed to confirm it. Step 1, they had to comb through thousands of hours of historical ocean audio, which is completely impossible for any human to do manually. So, step 2, they trained an artificial intelligence system to perfectly recognize that unique biotwang pattern. And finally, step 3, they used that AI to cross-reference years of audio logs with marine sighting records. That massive data crunch is what finally allowed them to officially attribute the call to these specific whales. I really want you to take a second and appreciate the brilliant irony of this whole situation. A sound that for years scientists thought was way too mechanical and synthetic to be an animal was ultimately confirmed to be a living creature by a machine. A machine found the voice hidden deep in the data, and a machine proved it was alive. You really can't make that up. This entire incredible journey really leaves us with a massive paradigm shift. Think about it. Today, our maps of the surface of Mars are highly detailed. We know exactly what it looks like millions and millions of miles away. Yet, our maps of our very own ocean floor, largely unknown. We literally know less about the deepest parts of our own planet than we do about outer space. Which leaves us with this final, profound thought to take away today. The ocean was never quiet. It's been singing, groaning, and quaking this entire time. We just finally dropped a microphone into the dark and started paying attention. So I have to ask you, if the deep has been talking this whole time, what else are we missing? Imagine what other wild mysteries are just waiting down there in the dark, waiting for us to finally hear them.